Good morning, class. I'm Joe, and I'm coming to you from the Adult Instruction Lab, the Greenwood Public Library in Greenwood, Indiana. This is my 621, SLIS 621, Project 2. I chose to do a short video about the town that I grew up in. Town called Wabash. It's in north central Indiana, and I threw a little PowerPoint together, which I've tried and tried, but you're not going to be able to see it real well given the lighting and given the zoom effects on my computer and also the host computer. But you know, I put a PowerPoint together regardless, and I'd rather just talk to you anyway. I'm talking to you through my Mac laptop computer. It has a built-in webcam, which I hope, I'll find out in a few moments if it's picking up the audio as well. But nonetheless, let's have a little discussion about the town that I grew up in, because it's a fascinating town. The city is Wabash, and Wabash comes in at a population of around 12,000 people. It's located at the intersection of State Roads 15 and 13 and US 24. It's at the northernmost bend of the Wabash River, the largest river and longest river in the state of Indiana. And it's the seat of Wabash County. It's located about 40 miles west of Fort Wayne. And I put a slide together on industry, because that's really one of the neat, fascinating things about Wabash. It's the birthplace of Mark Honeywell. You might recognize the name. He was the founder of Honeywell Corporation many, many years ago. The corporation has since moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, but it got its start in Wabash, and perhaps its inspiration as well. Honeywell is one of the world's leaders in filtration. They make filters for humidifiers and whatnot, industry filters. And they also pioneered the thermostat. Honeywell owned the patent on thermostats for a number of years, and they have perfected the technology. Wabash also hosts Ford Meter Box Corporation, which, if you take a stroll down any city sidewalk, you might notice their pressure caps made from a rusted color steel anywhere along your journey. They also make valves and products of the like. Do you use a paper cutter? Martin-Yale Company in Wabash is one of the world's leaders in large paper cutters, the types that you would find perhaps in your library or in your school, type with a large blade on the right. Some other notable people that are worth mention, and the ones that I thought would make this a fun video to make, because I don't know how much you guys really know about this city. And it's only 12,000 people, so why so many cool things going on? Why so many interesting and famous people from there? Well, we'll find out. Country singer Crystal Gayle. If you are much older than 30 years old, you probably remember Crystal Gayle. She was a country star mainly in the late 70s and also into the 80s. She's won a number of awards, but she's most notable for her nearly floor-length hair. Well, she moved to Wabash from eastern Kentucky when she was 4 years old, I believe, and she grew up there through high school, then moved on and made a career for herself. You may also recognize the name of her older sister, Loretta Lynn. She did not grow up in Wabash, but the two will forever be linked. Open-wheel race car driver, same as IndyCar. Jimmy Daywalt also grew up in Wabash. He never won the Indy 500, but he finished strong in a lot of races through the 1950s. Former Major League pitcher Wabash George Mullen, who folks up that way best knew him as the mayor of the city. If you were from Detroit, you knew him as a pitcher for the Major League Detroit Tigers. Perhaps the biggest claim to fame, and the one that you will find on the main web page for the city and the Chamber of Commerce, is Wabash's motto as the first electrically lit city in the world. And there's a story behind that. I believe it was 1888. A gentleman was testing a carbon arc lamp. It was extremely bright, not efficient like the type of light bulbs we have today. But he was trying to patent this for installation in an urban area for streetlight use. This was a time when we were still using gas lamps. Well, they fired it up, and I guess it was so bright, so the story goes, that you could see the light from Fort Wayne 40 miles away, which gave Wabash the claim to fame, and very few arguments have been forwarded against this, of being the first electrically lit city in the entire world, the entire industrialized world. It's also, the city is the site of the Paradise Springs Treaty. If you know much about U.S. history, local history, then you'll know that it was the site of a meeting between settlers and the Potawatomi Indians in 1826. Wabash is also the former headquarters of the Service Motor Company. Most people wouldn't recognize that name. They made flatbed trucks and ambulances that were used in World War I. By the time the Depression rolled around, that company went under, as did many others. And one last slide. I'm going to wrap it up, just, throwing some facts out there for you. And I'm new to video production, so hopefully you like this, and I can make it a little bit better. A little discussion about the Wabash Cannonball. You guys probably recognize that from song. The Wabash Cannonball, until the late 1980s, would make a pageant of traveling through the city of Wabash. The train was just an ordinary locomotive train, passenger train in the 19th century. It wasn't really made famous until the Carter family sang a song in the 1920s called Wabash Cannonball. The song was so popular that singer Roy Acuff covered the song in 1936, and his version of it is what is best known in the popular culture today. And a few other quick facts, and then we'll wrap this up. The state made Wabash one of the first places where river drainage reservoirs of the experimental type were tested in the late 1950s and 1960s. And to this day, it's kind of a fishing destination in that region. There are 3 reservoirs that remain, and they are also linked to state parks. And here's one thing you probably didn't know. If you read Gene Stratton-Porter, or are familiar with her life, which goes all the way back into the 19th century, Wabash was her childhood home and birthplace. She grew up very, very poor on a family farm near Wabash, between Wabash and Huntington, which is to the east. And that's all I've got. I hope you liked this. I just wanted a brief history of a really, really interesting city. And, if you're from around there, you might know these things. You might know me, and you might hear me talking about them, about the city, about where I came from, because I'm very proud of it. But I hope you enjoyed it. I've got more work to do, I think. But until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Joe Fox, and we'll see you later.